Hello and welcome to my garage. Today I'll be taking a look at fitting a quick release steering wheel boss to a car. Inside the box we have the boss part. Also included is some screws and nuts in order to fit the steering wheel. The boss separates by pulling up that ring and the two become detached. You'll also notice on the spline part you have a slightly thicker spline there, and that corresponds to the boss part when the two fit together. With this car, fitting a boss is fairly straightforward because I already have the adapter boss in place which has got the 6-bolt fixing. If your car doesn't have this, you will need to remove the boss and the steering wheel in order to fit one of the adapter plates. I will just show you now how to remove the steering wheel from the car. So in this vehicle, steering wheel removal is fairly straightforward. We've got a big nut in the centre which is a 1 5/16. So we'll get it on there with a breaker bar, and hopefully, if this isn't too tight, I should be able to hold the steering wheel and just come free. So the nut is now free, but you may find the steering wheel doesn't want to come off. I find the easiest way is just if you get hold of both sides of it and just twist it from side to side to try and break the seal on the taper. You should find with a little bit of gentle pressure it eases off and comes free. I would avoid striking this part to try and make the steering wheel come off. Usually just a wiggle is all it needs. Putting the steering wheel boss back is essentially the same process in reverse. It is quite important to fit the boss first with the steering wheel on so that you can put the correct torque through the nut. You'll find that once that is back in place with the quick release adapter on, you have no access to that nut underneath. So I'll just slip this back on as it was. So that's the wheel now back in place. When I took the wheel off, I left it in the dead center position, and it's gone back in exactly the same place. So now we take the fixing nut, that just drops back on, and I'm just going to wind that in till it's finger tight. Then a very small turn with the breaker bar, and now that's most of the way in. What I'll do now is get a torque wrench to finish it off. In an MGB, the specified torque is 40 foot-pounds or 54 Newton meters. So I'll just set that up on the torque wrench. So it started to get tight now. So just for the final click, I'm just going to put one hand on the wheel, and then that's the final click of torque onto it, and that's now done. So with our steering wheel adapter in place and it torqued down correctly, we can now remove the steering wheel, which is just these 6 Allen bolts around the outside. So the first part of this process involves fitting the female part of the boss and the wheel together. Now, as we said earlier, you've got this thicker spline, which on my wheel I'm going to put at the very bottom, so I can see that that's the thick corresponding part on here. So that will go in that way up, and then we'll need a screw to go through there, and then just a nut on the back. So I'm just going to put that in just finger tight, and then I'll go around and do all the other 6 nuts. So that's all 6 screws and nuts done at finger tight. So now we'll just go around with an Allen key and a spanner just to make sure they're all nipped up properly. So it's very easy. It's an 8mm spanner on the back, and then we'll just give these a gentle torque. I'd say it's important not to go too crazy on these because they're only small little screws. So I think just a pinch down is enough to hold them in place. So I'll go around and do all 6. You may have noticed during the installation that I still have the horn wire in place on this car. It's not necessary on a race car, but obviously as the car is road legal, I do need to have a working horn for the purpose of the MOT. The workaround I have isn't the best. I would say if you were using a car permanently on the road, it'd be best to put a switch either on the dash or on the stalk or something like that for the horn. But I'll show you the workaround I have. Basically we strip the end of the cable here, and then we're going to fit basically one of these, it's a Japanese bullet connector, a brass bullet, onto the end of that. So let's just crimp that in place. And then with that in place, I'm going to run a length of heat shrink down it. So you'll be using heat shrink rather than the original insulation from there. So let's just cut that piece. I want to slide that all the way in. So I've got the heat shrink in place. I'll just bring that up, and so it's covering the end of that connector. I'm just going to make that a little bit straighter as well. So then we'll slide that in. We'll just warm that up. With the heat shrink in place, I'm now going to coil up the wire. And the idea of making the wire into a coil is that will make it spring back. So probably about there, because we need to coil this down into the column basically. So we've coiled that up, and now we'll fit the metal part on, and we'll align it so that we have that thickest hole bottom. So that's in place. I'll just get a couple of screws in. So I've fitted 5 of the screws now to the boss. I use a different coloured screw just for the top fitting there. The reason for this, it just makes it a bit easier when you're fitting a wheel to see which way up it should go. So I'm just going to screw this one in, and then I'll go around all 6 just to check that they're tight. So that's now in place, and we've got our little bullet connector just poking out from the middle of the steering column. So all I need is a very thin self-tapping screw. I just pop that into there, and then when I want to use the horn for the MOT, I just give it a press. Now for racing, obviously I'll just leave that out, but it is a handy workaround if you do need the car to be road legal. The only thing left to do now is to fit the wheel onto the car. So we line up the top of the wheel with the top of the boss. Pull that inner ring gently towards you, and that just slots down nicely into place. And that's the wheel fitted. I hope that you've enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel to see more race videos throughout 2019. Many thanks. Bye.